This is a quick tutorial on how to set up your Hopper safe and Hopper node using the Staking Hub. So first, make sure you're at Staking Hub by navigating to hub.hoppernet.org. Here, at the bottom of the initial landing page and in the top right, you should find the Connect Wallet icon. So let's click it and connect our wallet as prompted. Now we get this little pop-up asking us if we want to create a safe. This is just to make sure you haven't connected the wrong wallet. You might already have a safe and just want to go to the dashboard. But I'm creating a new safe here today, so let's click Create Safe. This first page will tell you what you'll need. So it'll take about 20 minutes to set up your safe and node and join the network waitlist. But before starting, you also need to make sure you have the required tokens, which is 10,000 WX Hopper if you have a network registry NFT, and 30,000 WX Hopper if you don't have one. The network registry NFT was given to previous node runners from previous releases, so they have a bit of an advantage where they can join the network with less stake. But again, this is optional. The node will create during the process, so you don't need it before you start, but a minimum of 3 XDAI is recommended. You need at least 2 to create the safe and 1 to sign transactions. So again, if you don't have any of these tokens, you can import the token addresses here to make sure your wallet recognizes the various tokens. And you can find out where to buy these tokens on our documentation. We give various options here, as well as how to wrap them. Okay, so I already have 31,000 WX Hopper and about 5 XDAI, so I'm going to go ahead. So the first step is to create the safe. So this will need a small transaction to create your actual safe, and by default, the owner address is set to the wallet you have currently connected. So the owner address is the address whose private keys will be used to sign transactions on behalf of the safe. So I'm fine with this. I trust this wallet. I am going to deploy. This will prompt a small transaction, which will cost a fraction of a penny. Let's confirm and wait a few seconds. Okay, our safe is ready. Now let's fund it. But before that, you get one extra chance to transfer the NFT if you have one. So maybe you have a network registry NFT on another wallet, but you trust this one more to be the only wallet of your safe. If you want to transfer it now, now's a good chance. You'll be able to join the network with a lot less tokens. I don't have a network registry NFT, so I'm going to take the minimum 30,000 option here, and let's continue. So now to fund the safe, you'll need to create 2 separate transactions, one for the XDAI and one for the WX Hopper. So let's start with WX Hopper. You need to send a minimum of 30,000, which is how much I will send. And let's fund our safe. Let's sign the first transaction. Okay. It is pending. Meanwhile, let's also fund the minimum 2 XDAI. Over here, you now know you've transferred enough WX Hopper, so let's do our XDAI. And let's sign this transaction as well. Let's wait for this to go through. Okay, now we've transferred both enough XDAI and WX Hopper, so let's continue. Our safe is funded. Now we need to create a Hopper node. So there's two ways to do this. You can either use a DAP node. There's a plug-and-play hardware device, which you can just have running all the time. But this is a decent investment. Or you could do a Docker setup for free. So I'm going to choose Docker, and let's continue. So here you get this default command, which already has your Hopper safe address right here and your module address. These are two important details that you'll need to know, but they're provided on this command by default. So let's copy this command, and as instructed, let's follow the instructions in our documentation. Okay. So the first thing is these instructions are for Linux and Mac OS devices or Macs. If you have Windows, it's recommended to use a VPS. And of course, before you start, you want to have gone through the onboarding process to create a safe. Don't just try to create a node without having created a safe. So I'm going to use a VPS. It's recommended, and I am using Windows. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have Docker installed. There's various instructions for this. You can just follow the Docker documentation here. I already have it installed, so I am good to go. Next, you need to configure your command. Let's open Notepad and paste the command we got by default within the onboarding process. Don't copy this command. It tells you not to copy it here. And instead use the one from your onboarding process, because these ones by default do not have your safe address or module address. And with our command here, we actually have those already. So now let's adjust the API token first. So this is like a password for your node, and you'd want to set a strong one. So I am just going to use the default one over here that's recommended. And what you want to do is you want to replace the API token tag over here, and you want to add your own custom security token. So let's actually just replace it with what's over here. But please create your own one. Okay. Make sure you don't edit the spacing and that the spacing stays as it was in the original command. Now we need to adjust two more things. So the safe and module address, if you don't have the initial onboarding command over here and you're setting up a node again or restoring an old node for some reason, you'd want to have to find your safe and module address again. But because we have it copied, we can actually skip straight to step 2.3. We don't have to do any of this. And now what you want to do is you want to adjust the public IP address within the command and suffix it with the port 1991. So over here, the public IP of my VPS is not very hard to find because I am using a VPS. It is actually this right here. And I will replace this little part that says your public IP and make sure to keep the tag or the suffix at the end as it is. Now that we have our configured command, we can actually paste this into the terminal and start running our node right away. So let's do that. And in the next step, it'll tell you that once the node starts running, it's going to output some logs, which will show you node information, which we need to note. So in particular, we need to copy the node address, and then we can actually close the node because that's not really important to run the node right now. We're just trying to start a node, find out its address, and use this to register to the waitlist. So let's see if our node started running. It has, and it's unfunded, which is not a problem. Let's hit Control C to close the node, or Command C. And here you can see within the logs that you can find the node address. So let's copy this and save it somewhere safe. And we're good to go. So here you can see you can actually return to the staking hub and we can finish onboarding. So now let's return here as suggested and hit continue. And now we can apply to be on the waitlist. So if you need any information about this, you can read the FAQ and you can understand more about this. But in general, you join the waitlist, and after 1 or 2 weeks, the Hopper team will add you and add your node to the network, and then you can complete onboarding, sign a few transactions, fund your node, and start running a node. So to do this, you have to fill out this little form, which I have open here. And the safe address you can find right under this little command or this little instruction. Copy that in. And let's paste the node address we saved before. Now just fill in some details. I did not use a network registry NFT. And I'm okay to monitor the waitlist manually. And I'd like to stay anonymous. So let me add this. And now we're done. We've joined the waitlist and we have to wait for a member of the Hopper team to add our node. So I'm actually going to ping someone to add my node right away, just so I can show you the rest of the onboarding flow. But for you, this might take 1 or 2 weeks. And again, you can read about all of this and any information within the FAQ. So I've had someone from the Hopper team add me. And now when I return to the Staking Hub onboarding flow, you can actually see that I've been added to the network. So now we can actually continue onboarding and finish setting up our Safer node. Let's hit continue. Ignore this. What's important here is we still need a node address for this step. Now we're adding our node to our safe, so we want the two to be associated. So in case you've lost your node address, you can go back to the docs and just follow some of the setup instructions or run the configured command again. And if you need to reconfigure it and for whatever reason you don't have your safe or module address, you can use the instructions here, reconfigure the command, rerun it, and just find your node address as you did before. But right now we're going to link our node to our safe. So let's start by adding our node address, which I have saved, and hit continue. So let's sign the transaction and let's start configuring our node. We'll need to sign another transaction. Now the two are becoming linked. And we're done. So now we have a fully set up Hopper safe and Hopper node. But in order for your Hopper node to run, you need to provide it with a little bit of XI. So it can sign on-chain transactions and various tasks it needs to do to run. And for this, you need to add a minimum of 1 XI. So I'm going to add just that and hit fund. Let's sign this final transaction. And the last step is to set a WX Hopper allowance. So funds stored in your safe can't be accessed by a node directly. They're separated, isolated, and just secured by the private key of your owner address. But your node does need to open and close payment channels in order to run a well-connected node, communicate with other nodes, be used to relay data, and overall earn you tokens. So depending on your node strategy, your node will automatically request these tokens from your safe. So over here, instead of signing every single transaction, you can set an allowance of WX Hopper, which you think is okay for the node to just take from the safe directly without having to ask for approvals or signatures. So the default value here is 1000, and I think that's a fair value. And I am going to set that and hit execute. But you're allowed to choose your own risk profiles or how much of these tokens you're willing to allow your node to have unfiltered access to. which will be in danger if your node's ever compromised, but 1,000 is a good amount for me. So let's sign this final transaction, and we're done. Okay, and we're done. Your node has been set up, and you can now actually go straight to the dashboard and start running and monitoring your node and safe and interacting with it just as you please. That's the entire onboarding process, and now you have a Hopper Safe and Hopper node.